Hello and welcome to a Monday edition of the Managing Madrid Podcast. Today's episode is all about Casemiro's presentation, a conspiracy theory you may not be ready to hear about, but nonetheless, it's going to be thrown at you. And we also talked about Tchouameni, Camavinga, and so much more. And as a reminder, over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid, we'll have Tuesday Tapas tomorrow night. So Matt Wiltsey and we are going to discuss all things Real Madrid. We typically like to focus on all the players under the Real Madrid umbrella, which includes not only the players on loan, but also the players we still have 50% of the rights to. We cover them just in case of a future sale, but really more importantly, to be quite honest, I think we all deep down know that most of these players are not going to come back to Real Madrid. However, we do it also for our own entertainment purposes, just to have our pulse on these guys so we can have informed opinion when the time comes. So if you're interested in that discussion, that's going to be over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid tomorrow night and every Tuesday. And also every Thursday is the mailbag exclusively over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid as well. So go over there, sign up. It's a $3 a month minimum. That gets you access to everything. So you get a ton of value in return for your $3, and it's highly recommended. I really like it because it's a big Real Madrid family and you get to be a part of something special. So go inside, do that, and let's get to today's podcast. We're going to be set up here by Ray Hudson and Derek Ray. Let's go.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, hello and welcome to a Monday edition of the Managing Madrid Podcast. I'm your host, Kiyan Sobhani, and I'm joined for the third week running on this new Monday segment with Lucas Navarrete. We are going to talk about stuff that is on our mind since the weekend, really since we last spoke on Thursday. So the Thursday-Monday schedule is working nicely with Lucas and I. Lucas, another farewell ceremony in the books. I don't know how many times we've said that in the past few years. And so it's kind of weird and kind of sad to put it that way. But in another way, a really great send-off today in what was a very amicable parting. Good vibes all around, lots of love between club legend and player. And to be quite honest, as sentimental as it is, another great piece of business. This is the most a 30-plus-year-old has gone for in terms of sale value after Cristiano Ronaldo all time. So if you ask me, that's pretty good business. You kind of funded the Tchouameni deal in that sense, and you've planned your successor. And as was revealed today, Lucas, a lot of things were cleared up about how this whole thing went down. So talk to me about the Casemiro presentation, and maybe what's at the top of your mind in terms of, since we last spoke, is there anything that surprised you with the deal once it became official, or anything that was on your mind primarily?
Hey Kiyan, hey all. Not really. It's just my problem with the whole deal was never the fact of selling Casemiro. As we said last Thursday, my main problem with it is that I feel like, and it seems definitely that way, that Real Madrid are not going to use that money on improving the team, and I believe that they could, and I believe that they've done that. Like, the net spending over the last few years has been close to zero, apart from the year when we signed Jovic and Hazard and Militao and all that. Unfortunately, only Militao was a success in that regard. But anyway, and I feel like Real Madrid are going to keep the money in the bank. That's not the Real Madrid we used to know, at least, and it seems to be that these farewell ceremonies are kind of the new signing ceremonies, if you will. So we're having so many of them that this is like the new thing in the club. It's obviously pretty and fair to give these ceremonies to these big legends. But again, my main problem was never the departure of Casemiro, which I think it makes sense to sell him for that fee. It's probably now or never. I mean, people can say that you could have waited for another year to kind of let Tchouameni learn a lot from Casemiro, let Tchouameni learn at the club, let Tchouameni learn the Spanish style and all that. But on the other hand, you probably know that you are not going to get that offer for Casemiro next year. So it was now or never, and I guess it was right for Real Madrid to pull the trigger. But my main issue with it is that I feel like the team could be improved. My main focus would be on the right wing spot for sure, and it's not going to. So that's my only concern. That we are kind of treating our business around financial budget like Real Madrid is some kind of I don't know,
FC Porto.
No disrespect, but some kind of a smaller club like Porto, Porto, Dortmund, or Sevilla or Benfica, yeah.
Which I don't know if it's a matter of not wanting to spend because of financial reasons, which I don't think is the case, or if it's a matter of they don't see the market opportunities. Which do you think is it?
I think it's probably a combination of both, because all it seems to indicate that they were ready to splash a lot of money for Mbappe for sure. But I think that Real Madrid probably, and this is not official and this is not on the record and nobody's probably going to talk about it, but the renovations at the Bernabeu are probably more expensive now than they were before the war in Ukraine and Russia started. The materials got way expensive. Inflation is going really high all across the globe. At least here in Spain, I'm not an expert on everywhere else in the world, but at least here in Spain, it's crazy. The inflation and the prices are going really high. So I'm fairly certain and fairly convinced of the fact that the works at the Bernabeu have been gotten really more expensive over the last 3, 4, 5 months, and that's probably one of the reasons why Real Madrid are still a bit tight with their own budget and money.
The point I've made several times over the past few days about this specific issue of getting this kind of resale value on Casemiro, or just value for Casemiro rather, and keeping it in the bank, as if like we don't have to spend money. It's like you don't only make money when you want to buy something, you also just want to be a healthy financial institution. But having said that, the money is there now, and there is a clear, I'd say at least one clear position we need help in, and that's the right
Absolutely.
wing. So then I think it just comes down to, it's not a matter of they don't want the right winger, because they obviously were prepared to give all of those, every single cent towards Mbappe and get that player. Then does it come down to they didn't feel like there was anyone worth any kind of money that would be spent for that position after Mbappe? So on one hand, to me, like looking at some of these deals, like 100 million for Anthony or 75 million or whatever it ended up being for Rafinha, no to both of those ridiculous deals in my opinion. But then it begs the question, why not Gnabry before he ended up just going back to Bayern?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't rate him that highly, and if that's the case, why not Bernardo Silva if he's attainable? Maybe they don't see him as a right winger. Maybe they see him more of a central midfielder. I don't know. I don't have the answers to these questions, but these are definitely questions I have. And I don't see anyone really. I don't know who the person is who would be attainable next season, right? So it seems like for now they're just like, let's play it safe. So we'll see how that ends up, hurting us or not hurting us, a year from now.
Yeah, to me, the Bernardo Silva move would be textbook. It's just that simple, Even if you think he's a central midfielder and not a right wing, as a professional, as a guy who lives, who makes a living out of football, that the right wing spot is where Bernardo Silva has played most of his career, So even if you think his best position is a central midfielder, that's fair, that's fine, and I probably agree with you. But you can definitely play him there for one season until Modric either retires or declines more, and then transition him to the central midfielder spot, which is where he would excel in replacing Modric, because he's probably the biggest and most natural replacement Modric could have for that spot. So it would be textbook in my opinion. About Gnabry, I completely agree with you also, mainly because I don't see any other players becoming attainable, affordable, or whatever for that spot, in the course of the year. So what's your solution going to be in 12 months from now? Maybe we'll be trusting more Rodrigo. You're probably trusting Rodrigo to make that leap, that's for sure. But if he doesn't, and he kind of gets stuck in the quality he has now, which I think he's still pretty serviceable and useful, what's your option? Face another year of Valverde and Rodrigo on the right wing spot? I don't know. I think Real Madrid shouldn't be probably short-sighted when it comes to the right wing spot. It's a little bit short-sighted, in my opinion.
I don't see who magically appears next season, to be quite honest. You and I have run down the list of people who become free agents next year, and it's not that exciting of a crop. They're either players who are going to be leaving us, like Marco Asensio, players who are impossible, like Lionel Messi, or players who are underwhelming and would probably have a huge salary, like Marcus Rashford. Firmino maybe is someone we talked about in terms of someone who could help Benzema in terms of a backup role at that age.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not an exciting crop. So it's going to be someone you're going to have to pay for, I think. It's not going to be someone who's going to be expiring and get for free. Either that or someone we just don't know about yet who's going to come and blow up in the World Cup.
At the World Cup, yeah.
That's also possible. My dream is still Arribas, and I don't know. We'll see. But if you had to put a percentage on it, Lucas, what number would you give it? The chances of Real Madrid signing someone before August 31st? And would it be
15, 20%?
If Asensio gets sold before then, does that number go up to like 80%?
I don't think Asensio is going to be sold, so that probably plays a huge factor in my overall thinking of this matter. But if he were to be sold, maybe Real Madrid would look for something, but not desperately. Definitely not desperate. But I could only see them making a move if it happens, if it appears out of the woods, like Camavinga. Camavinga all of a sudden became available pretty much at the deadline last year, and Real Madrid decided to take that opportunity. But in terms of expectations, my expectations will be, I don't know, 10, 15, 20%. You can never rule out anything in football and in Real Madrid overall, but it definitely looks like the squad is pretty much close, with the exception of maybe Real Madrid selling Asensio if a good offer comes their way, which I don't think is very likely either.
Or if someone shows up for a pile of cash from Mariano, which is also 100% impossible.
Yeah, well.
The thing is, like, there is no Camavinga this year. Camavinga was a promising young player we've been kind of linked with over the last 2 years, and we were able to swoop in.
It's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, but that person doesn't exist this year. Like, who's going to be that last-minute guy?
Yeah.
And so I said this also like earlier in the summer. If we're waiting for Asensio to leave to get someone, we're going to be leaving it too late anyway. There's not going to be anyone who's going to be magically attainable at that time. And listen, Asensio's third option right wing is not the absolute worst thing that could ever happen, but it's something we basically rode last season towards the end of the season, and it seemed to work out. I do want to talk about Casemiro and Tchouameni. Obviously, the standout things, and we can talk about how good of a ceremony it was and how emotional it was. The tears from Ancelotti, the tears from Casemiro. We've all seen that. I don't know if there's any need to discuss all that, but the standout quote was that he said he knew his time at Real Madrid was up after the Champions League final. So, what's your interpretation of that quote?
I don't know. Having been working around football for the last decade or so, I feel like too often these ceremonies are kind of scripted, in the sense that players and members of the club get told of what to say for the narrative purposes, for the big public and all that to believe. My gut feeling about the whole situation. Not conspiracy, but I don't believe Casemiro when he says that he all of a sudden he felt like his tenure in the club, his cycle in the club had ended after the Champions League final. I've read some quotes from him right after winning the European Super Cup, saying that he wanted to keep winning trophies for the club and all that, blah blah. I don't know. It's obviously you don't want him to be controversial after that trophy either, so I get that, but I don't know. It just feels to me that Real Madrid showed him the door, and by buying Tchouameni this year. Then a big offer came Madrid's way, and Madrid were very happy to sell. I mean, I don't believe the theory and the narrative that Casemiro went to the club and said, "I got this offer, I want out." I believe that Real Madrid said, "We received this offer for you, and we would like you to consider it." That's my interpretation and my gut feeling about it.
Wow. Okay. So
mainly, but also because of his attitude during today's ceremony. Obviously, he was very sad, and I can't believe you're very sad after making a decision, still after a personal decision. But I don't know. It just felt a little bit, that narrative. It just felt a little bit scripted to me. I feel like Real Madrid showed him the door, and we're happy to sell.
Okay, I want to say something which I can't prove, but I felt myself in his shoes for like a split second when he was up there crying. And obviously that's a completely unrealistic scenario because I have 1/1,000,000th the talent he has. He has achieved 100 million times more than I have, and he's standing there leaving Real Madrid, an extremely rich man. But for a split second, when I saw him crying up there, I thought, that's a face of oh shit, I'm going to Manchester United and I'm leaving this great place. And I'm about to just experience what Varane and Ronaldo are experiencing right now, and that life after this club goes downhill. But that's neither here nor there. So scenario A, Lucas, his words are true. He goes, he feels like maybe he's won everything that he could possibly win at this club. He wants to try something new. He wants a new challenge. He communicates this to the club. Extremely hush-hush, by the way. Not a single journalist in the world picked up on it in these 1 or 2 months.
Suspicious.
Something that is very hard to do in this day and age. But if he was able to pull it off, respect to all parties involved for not leaking a single word of it for 1 or 2 months. And then the club says, okay, thank you for letting us know. In that case, we'll make sure we do not lose out on Aurelien Tchouameni. We sign him. Make sure that PSG do not get one over us on that one. Lock him up. Okay, Casemiro, we got him now. So if you wanted to explore options, you can. Casemiro looks around Europe. To be quite honest with you, not many top teams, if any, play with a player like him anymore. So you can right off the bat, first of all, rule out the obvious ones. Atletico Barca, that's not happening. Manchester City, that's not happening. To be quite honest, I do think, Chelsea don't need him because they have Kante. But to be honest, there is a case for Liverpool to actually use someone like Casemiro. And there are other top clubs. But then I think if it's true that he was talking to Varane regularly and Varane was trying to convince him, and plus he's getting that salary, he ended up choosing Manchester United at the end. And then he says what he says and he leaves, and that's it. Scenario B, Real Madrid just really wanted to sign Tchouameni. And they brought him, and they gave Casemiro his game against Frankfurt because that was the starting 11. And Casemiro's looking around, and he gets benched for the Almeria game. And then an offer comes in. I don't know exactly what the order would be if Manchester United looked at that and be like, hey, look, he's not playing. Maybe he's expendable for Real Madrid. Let's put an offer in. Or if it's Casemiro telling his agent, look, I don't know. This is not... it's not Casemiro Cruz Modric anymore. It's not KCM. It's kind of breaking up now. I'm still going to play, but this new kid is here. Let's see if we can find a new home. So it seems like you're leaning towards scenario B, and you think that the press conference was kind of a show.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. With your point.
I didn't put an opinion. I just presented scenarios.
I know. Yeah, I agree with B being at least the most realistic scenario, in my opinion. I think that's what happened. I think obviously the order of a couple things may be different, but I lean towards your scenario B. Yeah.
When he says people who think I move for money don't know me, how do you interpret that one?
Again, narrative and public PR. It's just PR, and that's no knock on thing. There will be not a more honest thing to do and to say than saying, uh, I leave because I feel like Real Madrid should give me the money that that I deserve. Ultimately, I think that Casemiro would deserve more money than when he had been earning in Real Madrid, and there will be and it would be very honest for him to say so. But PR talks in these situations, and same way happened with Ramos last year. Obviously, his very controversial departure and all that, and his award ceremony felt a bit weird and a bit scripted. And to me, some of the whole timeline of the situation that both Real Madrid and Casemiro are have been explaining today doesn't feel very credible to me, in my opinion. It's just my opinion, though. I mean, everyone is entitled to their own thoughts about the matter, but I just think that it's something closer to a scenario B, that Casemiro felt like his tenure as an undisputed starter in Real Madrid had ended as soon as the club signed Tchouameni. He believed that this could be also his last summer to get the huge paycheck that he got with Manchester United. Maybe he also felt, not only Real Madrid, maybe he also felt like next year would be quite more difficult for him to get the contract he got this year. So he probably took advantage of the opportunity to, after feeling that he's not indispensable for Real Madrid anymore. And this is something that, this is just my opinion anyway.
I think it's one of those things we may never know until he releases a book 20 years from now and says, that summer I felt a little bit underappreciated. I've done everything for them. They signed this guy to compete with me for a lot of money. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do believe
he was signed, and he instantly earns as much money as I've been earning for the last 4 or 5 years, even though I'm a 5-time Champions League winner. It makes sense if you think about it, I think.
I do believe him when he says it wasn't necessarily about money, because I think it's possible he would have gone to Manchester United anyway. And then the salary is what a salary is. He's not going to say no to an extra $5 million when he's going to leave anyway. At the same time, there's a question there to be asked: would he have stayed if Real Madrid matched the salary? Because from a pure sporting perspective, in my opinion, I think it's better to be rotated with Tchouameni at Real Madrid than it is to be a starter at Manchester United. That's subjective. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I personally believe that club is in shambles, and it's very possible by the time they even turn it around, or if they do, Casemiro will be long retired. So we'll see how it goes there. He's flying on a plane now to Manchester? Is that how it works? Is he going to be there in time for the game?
Yeah, he'll be. I've read that he will be at the Old Trafford for tonight's game. Obviously not playing, and his debut should be on the weekend against Southampton, I believe. So stay tuned for that one, everyone who wants to watch, obviously.
So I saw your tweets over the weekend during the game. You were impressed with Tchouameni's performance, to tie this right into the story. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I was mostly impressed with his performances while Real Madrid was struggling. It's obviously easier to shine when Real Madrid were in control of the game and dominating the game after Celta got a bit tired and conceded a few counterattacks and all that. It's way easier to shine then in that opportunity. But I was impressed with his performance before that happened, and right when Real Madrid were struggling and were being dominated. I saw him clearing many opportunities inside Real Madrid's own box, which was really great. He's also defending really well, one-on-one, distributing the ball without that without settling in like he did last week. If you heard what we discussed a week ago, but yeah, I was definitely very impressed. I thought he was, to be quite honest with you, one of the best players Real Madrid had in that game, and hopefully there's more to come. I read tweeting that this is kind of the typical Tchouameni performance and what we should expect from him. And if this is the case, I'm very excited about having him in the starting lineup. I thought he was great, and Camavinga too. Both of them were really well. But in terms of Tchouameni, I was mostly impressed with his performance when Real Madrid was struggling. I thought that was very impressive in terms of mindsets also, because it showed great courage, great determination from him, knowing that Casemiro was already gone, knowing that this is his opportunity right now and his duty and his responsibility, not only his opportunity, because opportunity, is a positive word and you need to take advantage of the opportunity and all that, but it comes with that comes the responsibility, and it was his responsibility to perform when all eyes were on him, the press was on him, and he delivered in a big way, and I thought it showed that he's a very important player and will be a very important player, which is something that I kind of expected and knew, since you don't start for the French national team when you're 21 years old if you don't have that determination and that courage. So I knew that he probably had that kind of courage and determination inside him, and he showed it.
Yeah, I think that's one misconception about him, is that, like, when we're talking about is he ready and like how raw he is, people tend to forget he's not that raw. He's a polished player starting for the French national team. Like, it's not like he's some absolute future project, Like, it's not like we signed Giannis Antetokounmpo when he's like 15 and hope that he can become the Greek freak. Like, he's actually a really good player right now. He's one of the best DMs in the world.
In short, he's not Camavinga last year. Yeah, that's to summarize it. Camavinga last year was impressive in that regard, because even though he already had some games under his belt in the French league and all that, we know that he was very young, raw, potential and all that, but Tchouameni is not that kind of product right now. Tchouameni he's already, he's far along in the process, yeah.
So, and I made that point also, and I wrote about it today. What you said there at the end, that, like, I think if you zoom out and look at Tchouameni's career, what we saw against Celta Vigo on the weekend, it's very possible that's probably like a 7 out of 10 for him. It's not like a 10 out of 10 performance where he just dominates. It's just a really good performance. But to me, the reason why it was important for him to even be that good is because of all the eyes on him, because of the pressure on his shoulders. Immediately after Casemiro leaves, immediately after Ancelotti himself says Tchouameni needs to be better with his positioning, he wasn't what we saw in training. All of the pressure, everyone coming out and saying, like, oh, should we play Cruz there? Should we play Alaba there? Like, what are our options? Dude, does Fede Valverde play there? Like, dude, as you know, the meme, Tchouameni. So I just felt like if I was him, I'd be like, I'm taking this personally. And so that's what I was looking for. I personally, I had decided, even if he doesn't play well against Celta, I'm going to be patient with him. And quite frankly, if he's poor until December, I'd still be kind of patient with him and lenient and say, okay, he's still adapting. But I did also decide and say that if he bounces back and has a great game against Celta, then I'd be even more impressed, because that tells me a lot about where his head is at. And he did it. So that was really encouraging to me, Lucas. Yeah.
Absolutely. We didn't even know. Rumors in Spain suggested that he wasn't probably going to start even. And so, definitely eyes were on him. Pressure was on him big. After, he's shaky, if you will, maybe not bad or poor or whatever, but shaky debut against Almeria. So he had all eyes on him, and he delivered in a very, very impressive way and mature way for even as finished as he is as a product. It's still impressive to see this from a 22-year-old in his second game for Real Madrid, which is obviously a big statement in terms of pressure and courage needed to perform in the biggest stage. And I thought he did great, mainly because the start of the game was really difficult for Madrid. Like, until that penalty came, Real Madrid were being dominated, and he still showed personality and courage to thrive through that and bounce back from that and be still one of the most impressive players during those minutes. So I thought it was very impressive. And as you mentioned, being capable of delivering this kind of performance when in this kind of context, definitely there's a reason to be excited about it right now. You probably needed to be patient, as you mentioned, if he not performed well, but seeing this performance in this context definitely gives you assurance that this is a player that's going to be a very important player for Real Madrid. Yeah.
What do you think is better for his development? Had Casemiro stayed for 2 years and mentored him, or him being thrown into the fire right now?
Again, this is not Camavinga. People tend to see Tchouameni a different way. I think that Tchouameni had already he had the skills and the talent to be a key player for Real Madrid. I started for Real Madrid this season. We all expected, or at least thought, that he could come for the spot with Casemiro right away. So I don't think he needed those 2 years to learn something. I mean, obviously it could have been useful to him learning from Casemiro and having Casemiro around. That's for sure. I mean, everyone. But that's for everyone. That's for a 29-year-old player who comes to replace or rotate with Casemiro. I mean, that's not because of age or because of experience and all that, but he was ready. And I don't think he needed this process of being the reserve under Casemiro's wing right now. I guess, again, I don't think people realize how big of a deal it is to be an undisputed starter for the French national team. And he already had achieved that. And so I think it was better for him to put himself in the situation of being a Real Madrid starter right away, at least for his development. I'm not sure about. Obviously, Real Madrid would be a much better team with Casemiro around, and that's definitely you would have both options, right? And the more options you have, the better team you are too. So, but in terms of for his own individual development, I think that it would be better for him to have the role he will have this season, and that's probably why I also believe that Real Madrid potentially pulled the trigger on Casemiro.
Yes, I lean towards that stance as well. Like, I've seen it too many times in Real Madrid's history and football history where if you have a really talented player who now, instead of being sporadic backup player who has his development stalled, is actually now really talented but also starting every game, it's just the acceleration is tremendous. And I think for that reason also, if the club really believed that as well, it did make sense. From the financial standpoint, it made sense. From a sporting perspective, now, having said that, I do strongly believe that without Casemiro, our squad is weaker next season. I mean this season.
Absolutely.
Than if we were to sell him, which we did. So we are weaker without Casemiro in the squad for this season. There's no question. I'm not arguing against that. But I do think it's possible we get a better version of Tchouameni earlier because of this scenario. And again, we so many fans kept asking, why did we spend money on Tchouameni if we already have Casemiro and Tchouameni is never going to play? Well, you got it. Now he's going to play. That problem, it's a little bit more clear now in this scenario. I did want to go back to what you said about Camavinga and Tchouameni playing well together, because it's something I also wrote about today, because I actually went back and rewatched that game. And what I was really impressed with is how those two formed a really good understanding already. And maybe it's a little bit more easier for them because they're both French, they're both young, they seem to have similar interests and they're friends already. But defensively, they had that, like, between those two and Mendy on that side, because they were mostly on the left, Celta were getting nothing going. Like, they couldn't do anything. And the coverage from both of them was tremendous. There was an interchangeability to them where Camavinga would sometimes drop deeper. They would both drop deep to press. Camavinga would show as an outlet, and Tchouameni is a really good vertical passer, so he was hitting Camavinga with those passes centrally. It worked. And I think, like, if you're an opponent, if you let this combo kind of just marinate a little bit, not even just throughout the season, but throughout the years, maybe you even see it as a double pivot. I think this would work as a double pivot as well. They have similar skill sets. They're both elite tacklers. They're both great box-to-box players. They can probably give a lot of freedom to the wingers and the attackers while securing things defensively. I think it's going to work really well. So if those two just form this synergy together over the years, I think it's really hard for an opposing team to look at that, go in and try to bypass them. Not only because they're physical freaks, they're behemoths that are built like Greek gods, but also because they're highly intelligent, they're technically gifted. I think it's a really promising duo to look forward to for the next few years. And I don't know, I'm really bad at predicting what happens. And I don't know, I've been wrong so many times with promising midfielders and stuff, so I don't want to say it, but like, this could be an interesting era that we're stumbling into with these two. I think they have a lot of complementing attributes to make a really nice midfield tick.
Absolutely. I know the 4-2-3-1 is kind of a dead formation in current football, and everyone seems to play with three midfielders and all that, but mainly because the attacking midfielder position doesn't exist anymore in that sense. But if Real Madrid were to find a really talented player to play behind a pure striker, I think that Real Madrid could pull together a 4-2-3-1 with Tchouameni and Camavinga as a double pivot for sure, without needing an extra midfielder to do the work. I think they were brilliant. A part of the defensive combinations and plays you were talking about, I was also very impressed with their passing and how they're combined with passes all throughout the game. I think it was brilliant. Also from Camavinga, who also got a fairly shaky start against Almeria in that first game, and I think he also, contrary to what happened with Tchouameni, he needed some time in the game against Celta. I don't think he started as well as Tchouameni in that game, but he definitely improved a lot, and I think he also needed this performance to gain confidence and show Ancelotti that he can be trusted for good. And I was very impressed with that partnership, and hopefully there are many to come in the near future, because as you mentioned, I think Real Madrid have the opportunity to play them both, even if it's on a double pivot, if they so need.
Yeah, I think double pivot with those two actually can free up room, possibly even for a 10, or possibly even for Kroos to play a little bit ahead in a 10 role, kind of the way he did with Germany when he was playing ahead of Khedira and Schweinsteiger. There's a lot of options there. What else did you want to talk about today? Anything? Those are the two main points, Tchouameni and Casemiro, that we needed to talk about. But was there anything else that's on your mind?
No, not really. Just everyone paying attention to what's going to happen with Asensio. Ceballos seems to be determined to stay now. I think he'll also get more opportunities throughout these next few games to showcase his talent and all that. And ultimately, it seems that both Kroos and Rodrigo will be back for next weekend's match against Espanyol. So looking forward to that one, and to see what other midfield combinations Ancelotti decides to deploy, because that could ultimately be the first time we see Tchouameni, Kroos, and Modric playing together, which you could think that it might be the Gala 11 in the midfield. If Valverde, also if Rodrigo is back, we might see Ancelotti hinted at the possibility of using the 4-3-3 once again. So the next game will probably be the first opportunity we get to see Tchouameni, Kroos, Modric, and Rodrigo in the 11, which could be again the Gala 11, at least against some opponents this year.
Look forward to it. We got Espanyol coming up next weekend and a week of rest. So while Real Madrid rests and focuses on their training, we will continue to put out content for you guys, both in written form and podcast form. Lucas, thank you for your time. This new Monday segment makes Mondays more enjoyable. You don't it's like some people go to bed Sunday night like, oh fuck, it's Monday tomorrow. I can't wait for Monday now. So thanks for doing this, and I'll try to get a Toronto Raptors hat to match your Nuggets hat. To bring a little bit more NBA flair for everyone who loves NBA on this podcast. Thanks for your time, Lucas. Talk soon, buddy.
Thank you, Kiyan. You too.
All right, before we wrap it up and send you along on your way, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. But we wanted to give a specific shout out to our $10 plus patrons, because if you pledge $10 or more, you get a specific shout out on the podcast, in addition to getting guaranteed responses to your questions. So shout out to Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Wei Pering, Wamik Jamal, Umair Mahadi, Tyler Simon, Tobias Arroyo Botcher, Tarek Goktas, Talib Salhab, Tahmid Kalam, Sujai Wani, Sumanchu Singh, Shivam Tiwari, Sherry Sorial, Sheikh Hatiri, Shamil, Shabaz Sharapov, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solorzano, Samuli Justin, Samir Z, Said Mahad, Sai Mohan Sasi Kumar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Patrick Diafati, Oscar Barrera, Nico Laxo, Nicholas Zapatero Zubiare, Nicholas Moeller, Nick Ribeiro, Nelson Mazariego, Muxi Thengal, Mowgli, MJ Diego, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Matthew Atkins, Martin Ridman, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Cruz, John Fernandez, Jeff Thurston, Jason Fitz, Ian Marley, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sundros, Faisal Hamdan, S.A. Davisito, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Christian Toft, Krishna Costa, Charles Williams, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Ashik Bashar, Armand Gashi, Armando L, Antons Rudenko, Anirudh Singh, Alexis Saniceros, Al, Azaz Hussein, Adrian Rios, Adar Zalukovic, Adam Dorsey, Bella Chow, Varun, Ramtin Maghrur, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for your support. We love you all. And Halamari.